Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is 1983's The Osterman Weekend, directed by Sam Peckinpah. This is Peckinpah's last film, and this is the nice imprint number 109 edition, which I'll get to in a second. This stars Rutger Hauer, Burt Lancaster, Dennis Hopper, Chris Sarandon, Meg Foster, Helen Shaver, Craig T. Nelson, John Hurt. It's a pretty amazing cast. It's a fairly low budget film. It kind of looks like a TV movie. Peckinpah had trouble with the producers. This is 5 years after he made Convoy. He was not in a good place as far as health. Obviously he would die a year later. You kind of sometimes forget he died when he was 59, even though he looks as though he was 79, but that's what years of hard drinking and lots of cocaine use will do to you. It does age a man. So he was just happy to be making a film. Apparently he hated the book. The scripts isn't great. The film, it's a bit of a mess for hiring an action director. There's only kind of 2 scenes with action in it. It opens with the murder of John Hurt's wife, and then he has a scheme which he introduces to Burt Lancaster, who's head of the CIA, that Rutger Hauer's character, who's a TV journalist who does hatchet jobs on political guests, basically, that his 3 friends from college are actually communists who work for this Omega group, and they're going to essentially blackmail Rutger Hauer to have them all over for the weekend, as he does once a year, and to try and weed them out and to try and catch them, as these are traitors. Obviously that's what the surface plot is, but obviously that's not quite what the story is about. The story, bizarrely, it's almost Peckinpah doing a relationship film, because it's all about the husbands and wives and their relationship. You have Dennis Hopper as a plastic surgeon, and his wife Helen Shaver, who is pretty much a drug addict. And Helen Shaver was like 2 years removed from rehab, and then she's playing somebody who's addicted to cocaine. You have Chris Sarandon and his wife. He's a kind of a shady money man, and again this kind of subplots that you just get inklings of that never made the final film. There's a wonderful overshot action scene involving a car chase and a huge construction pipe that penetrates a car's windshield. It's almost like an orgasm of overshot car crashes, which goes along with the whole kind of sexual feel. In one version of the film, which I'll get to, it pretty much opens with John Hurt and his wife having sex, and then he leaves the room, and then strange men come out of the cupboard and kill her. The extended kind of scene at the end almost turns into a slasher movie in the woods. Again, the budget is fairly obvious at this point. There's Peckinpah does his own version of Zabriskie Point with an RV. And for a director that's sometimes criticised for his treatment of women, even though in the extras all the female actors said he was absolutely fine. Meg Foster, Rutger Hauer's wife, is actually the one who takes action, and she's more of the action hero than Rutger Hauer is. It's a film that you can actually watch as an interesting double bill with Cronenberg's Videodrome. The days of audio bugging are like coming to an end, and it's more video surveillance. During the whole film, people are being watched on camera from remote locations, so it's more of the change from audio surveillance to visual surveillance. It's a critique of TV. Rutger Hauer has some wonderful speeches about the power of television, and how programs are essentially just there as filler between things that are trying to get you to buy stuff. So it has lots of wonderful satirical stuff about the changing of the visual consumer. So we'll get to the edition by imprint. So this actually has 3 cuts of the film. Not necessarily 3 cuts, but 3 versions of the film. So you have the theatrical cut, which is 1 hour and 42 minutes. And it's a 1080 of the 1.72 aspect ratio, and there's an alternative version from the 166, which is the unrestored German print. There's a commentary by Paul Seydoux, Garner Simmons, David Waddell and Nick Redman, who have all written books about Peckinpah. There's Alpha to Omega, which is a retrospective documentary about the Osterman weekend, and again that's really long and that's really informative. And then you have the director's cut, which is only a couple of minutes longer, but it has the title sequence where Peckinpah warps that image of John Hurt and his wife. The theatrical release, that's a black screen, and then that scene is added, starts after the credits. There's sequencing differences. There's some scenes that are in one version that isn't in the other version. I would say the director's cut is the better film, but it's still obviously got problems. So this is a 1080 high definition restored 2K scan from Sam Peckinpah's personal 35mm director's cut negative. So there only was one print or one negative of his director's cut, which a friend had that sat in a California storage place for years. There's a commentary by Peckinpah expert Mike Siegel from 2022, and he was the guy that actually restored, via his own money, restored the director's cut. There's a Passion and Poetry, Sam's Final Cut, which is a documentary by Mike Siegel from 2022, which is absolutely fantastic. It shows the restoration process, the audio tracks they had to restore. A couple of the reels were ruined just by storage. That's a really long piece and really fascinating to see how they managed to get this director's cut into the condition it's in. I mean, there's still it's not a perfect print, but to actually have it is an amazing achievement. And then Siegel from 2022 also does a video comparison on the 2 cuts, which is essential. It's a really good piece on the differences. that even, slight differences make a big difference, as far as sequencing of scenes or shots, or just things that weren't in either version. And then there's 3 animated galleries filming the Osterman Weekend in pictures, and promoting the Osterman Weekend, which again from 2022, and that's lots of stills, etc. And it is actually quite moving when you realise so many of the cast aren't with us anymore. So what we're left with, kind of these, 2 versions of the film, and again you get another ratio version of the film, so you get 3 versions of the film. It's still not, one of Peckinpah's best films, but I think watching the director's cut, there's a lot to like in it. The performances are all pretty wonderful. You do get to see Meg Foster with a crossbow, or with a bow, which is always very entertaining. It's just kind of sad, even though even the score by Lalo Schifrin has a melancholy tinge to it. It's kind of downbeat, and the whole film has this kind of feel of doom to it. I mean, again, Peckinpah wasn't really that impressed with the actual material. Obviously he wasn't in great health when he made it, but there's still wonderful performances. He was an actor's director, even though he could be rough around the edges, and obviously the stories of his health are, and it's pretty amazing how he ever actually finished it. But it's a flawed film, but this is the best that's looked, and again, I would certainly recommend the director's cut of it. I don't know whether imprint will release individual releases rather than this set, which I think is out of print. It's kind of a fascinating last film. Again, it's more of a character study than an action film. In the 2 action sequences, you've still got the slow motion, but it's almost like overshot because they didn't have enough action in it, which again gives it this surreal, bizarre feel. But it's certainly an interesting film, if not completely successful, but it's well worth a look. And again, this imprint set is the best that's ever looked, and certainly the director's cut, I think, is the one to watch. So thanks very much for watching this random review of Sam Peckinpah's The Osterman Weekend. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of The Osterman Weekend, and hopefully join me again for more random reviews. This is Saul Ronan from Saul Ronan Films, saying farewell.